Post-testies, we are into our personal top 10 games of the year.
Yeah.
We didn't say this. I guess theoretically, this could have been a game that launched late last December. If you wanted to, based on when we recorded this. Like, for me, I did not play the Great Circle, Indiana Jones.
Indiana Jones and the Great Circle.
So if I played it January, I would technically count it as next year.
Yes, I think same thing with like Astrobot. Like, but with our personals can be whatever we played this year. When it comes to
Preston
the testing
also
rooms,
has a rule change that he'd like to put.
I would like to put forth a question, and we all would have to agree on it to do so. But I agree, Alex. Personals do that, but as far as like going for the top 10, like if we think it's a top 10 game of the year, it has to drop in that year as far as like the overall testing room. Do we agree?
I agree.
Personal, you can leave out. Do whatever.
I do, but like, say a game drops it on December 20th, we're never going to play it and ever put it on a list, regardless of how good it is.
Well,
if you put it in that year.
Not.
I mean, to be fair, Indiana Jones came out at the beginning of December and was supposed to come out like November. Yeah,
no, I think that there's a cutoff. I think like if it launches, if it launches in the back half of December, you should be able.
We can make an argument for it. Put it that way. Like, hey guys, it was back half of December. Yeah.
But if you wait till January to play a game that came out in September, that doesn't count.
Yeah. Exactly.
No, correct. I don't. I'm not running into this issue. I did not play Indiana Jones. It's not on my top 10. I'm just saying, it would make sense.
Sure. Something like Indiana Jones, we had a conversation about.
Yeah.
Astrobot. We all didn't play it. It's been out for long enough, right? We're not going to say like, oh, I played Astrobot in February. I want to put that in the top 10 of 2025.
No,
you can't do that.
Only
something like Indiana Jones, where it comes out right at the end of the year.
It's like Preston. It's just like award shows, right? If something comes out right when the award show's happening, nobody has a chance to see it or play. Yeah, that's it. So, but yes, I don't think we had anything. I don't think anything dropped late last year in December. So I don't.
No, I don't
have anything from that time.
It might have been something. Yeah, I think. Yeah, whatever.
All right. I also got, when we get there, Jake and Travis's, since they co-hosted with us this year.
Yeah, I forgot.
Not their top 10.
Reach out to people about that one. Yeah.
Just like their top 3. I got their top 3.
I did. The question would be, we've all said remakes cannot be in like testing rooms game of the year. You can put them in your own, but they can't be into testing rooms top 10.
Yep.
Famously, that was said, actually.
Yes. So I would like to propose that we can have an argument for that not being the case.
Let me ask, before we do this, before we politic this,
I have one condition.
I want to
retroactively changed last year.
I want to know what spurned this.
So
where is this coming
from? The big
from?
Conversation came up with last year with Resident Evil 4 remake, right?
No, I remember that. Yeah.
Personally, I felt that it was more of the same. Christian, who played it and has played the other games, says it otherwise.
Yeah.
Everybody says otherwise, but yeah.
People say otherwise.
I mean, I think I agreed with Preston on that one. Just for
I feel like something like
mostly to get my game on the
Reload,
list or whatever.
Like did a big change. Now I'm not saying we need to include it this year. We can just have this a rule going into it later on. But Persona 3 Reload is such an incredibly different game almost than what the original is. Looking at everything, that I feel that it should be a possibility because it is so different. And
so let me ask you a question. If you were to judge Resident Evil 4 and Persona 3, do you think Persona 3 changed more about it in the second experience than Resident Evil did? Or do you think
you're also asking someone who didn't play either versions of Resident Evil 4, right? So I can't really give you 100%. I would say yes, just by looks alone. Okay. I would say yes. Like that game looks
I saw Christian play Resident Evil 4.
Looks shinier, but still looks like aesthetically the same, right?
No, because didn't they go from tank controls to like?
I'm not asking about controls. I'm asking about graphical look. Like, yes, it's HD, it's 4K, whatever, better frame rate, but overall, like, it looks like that game, right?
Go look up a side-by-side screenshot right now.
All right, I'll go with that.
And then come back.
But also, like, you guys know the difference between like Persona 3 and Persona 3
And
Reload.
I'm saying that upgrade is very similar.
RE4 remake comparison.
To the GameCube version of RE4.
Sure, remake comparison. Just gonna put that down there.
Yeah.
Images.
I am formulating my completely impartial opinion on this.
Yeah, I'm sure you are.
There's a good jump. Yeah, sure, there's a good jump.
Okay.
I think Persona 3 does a bigger jump, but also I will give you that. I'll give you that. Yes, it did a very large jump. When I'm looking at the lady who had a horrible voice acting, I'm looking at her version in the original one, and I'm looking at her version in the remake, and they're completely different. Yes.
I think, Preston, you're going to get this passed because Christian is very willing.
Well, he also would like to
be
put
in a situation. Yeah, to not be in a situation where he was before. I, out of complete principle, will say, I'll be the lone person that says no, only because if I look at the two games, I believe that Resident Evil was more of a shift than Persona was, and we told him no on Resident Evil. So just sticking to morals.
I mean, I was gonna say not including this year. No. This is where we change the discussion. I'm not gonna go out the bat that says Persona 3 Reload should be at the top 10. I'm not doing that. I'm not gonna change the rules and then get my cake with it, right? I'm gonna say no. We'll say from here on out, we'll possibly include it. And then, next year when we have the Trails series, do a remake of the first one, Christian can come out the bat for that.
Yeah, I feel like Christian definitely wants to change it, and I know he wanted to last year, so I think it's going to pass. So I'm fine with standing by and just saying no.
I think it needs to be a substantial change. Someone needs to be able to fight for that substantial change and be able to kind of discuss that.
Can I ask you this question? Why is it important that you do it for Persona this year? But
I'm saying not doing it for Persona this year.
Before. No, I know, but Persona is the one that has spurned this change.
Because I've
tried very strongly.
I think probably the same reason why Christian wanted to have put 4 last year. Because I've played Persona 3. I'm like, this looks rough. This is not going to play as good as the Persona 4, Persona 5. And I've tried to play Persona 3 before, and it just wasn't hitting.
Amen, sister.
When I played Persona 3 Reload, that shit hit fucking hard, and I was really into that game.
If you take Reload out of it, do you have 10 games to put up for the testing room? Okay.
Yes. And like I said, but Persona 3 Reload isn't my personal. I'm not going to offer it to be in our testing room's top 10. If we can start doing that next year going forward, I'm just saying if there's an option.
I am fine. Yeah. I am fine with it.
I don't want to change it I think before me. You know what I'm saying?
If this motion is to proceed, I just want it to be called the Resident Evil 4 Remake Memorial Rule.
Yeah.
And that is fine.
Fair enough. Yeah. Like me a memorial rule. And it's you have to be able to present as to why it's such a different game. You can't just say, I like this game, I want to be up there. It has to be able to present it. Christian was presenting it last year. I wasn't buying it. I have to be able to convince you guys. Like if I wanted to put Persona, I'm not going to do it. If I wanted Persona 3, I would have to sell you guys on that. So
sure.
I am fine with the rule change, and I am fine with the name change as well to the rule.
Yeah. Great. Because if we all really like System Shock, that is a very different game than what that original game was, right? So while it is a remake, it is a very different game.
It is. Yeah, that's true. It would not make it on my list.
No, I thought it was a good game, but I did not make the list.
Okay. All right.
Let's get into it.
I'm good with it. So, as we typically do with this, what we're going to do is we're going to run 10-1, 1 being the best game of our personal year. And what we like to do is go in rounds. So we'll each give our number 10, we'll each give our number 9, we'll each give our number 8, and so on down the list until we get to 1. That's how this works. Come toward the end of it, before we tell you our number 1, we'll take a little bit brief pause and we'll tell you Jake and Travis's top 3.
Sure.
But essentially what we do is we make our list, for those of you listening, and then we'll use that list as we debate our overall testing room's collective top 10, the definitive list of games of the year. So, with that, let's get to it. Let's start off at number 10, shall we?
Just want to go left to right like it shows? And you
left to right. Yeah.
All right. So, I'm going to kick things off then. This is a tough year for me. I did not play as many games as I typically do.
Hand was disabled.
Yeah, I had a few months down with a hand issue, so I got 12 games, which is fine. And I got some solid picks in here, not counting like the old school games that we played.
Sure.
But number 10, I think, makes sense. For me, I had a lot of fun with this game. We had a lot of fun with this game. It was a very popular game, but I did fall off of it. It did everything it wanted to do very well. I'm going to nominate number 10 for my personal list as Helldivers 2.
Okay.
Helldivers 2, yeah. It was really good.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. Had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, we just didn't get back into it a whole lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
We keep talking about it, but we end up playing something else. So.
Finding games to play together at this age is very difficult.
Yeah, we'll find time also. Yeah,
finding time to play together. Yeah, at this time is very difficult.
No, yeah, for sure. But I think it's a solid pick, and I agree with it so much that it is also my number 10. Yeah. So great pick. I have no notes there. I honestly, it was for me. I played a ton of games this year, and so I always do. And so it was just a tough year, and so it was me thinking about like different things about what I liked and what I wanted to have take place, anything like that. I struggled a lot between Helldivers 2 and Tekken 8.
Gotcha.
Was where I was at with this one. And honestly, in my heart, they're probably still tied, but for the bit, it was funny to be like, let's do this. So yeah, Helldivers 2 is my number 10.
Okay.
All right.
Well, my number 10, we'll give a couple shout outs to the ones that didn't make it, but did make it into my debate. Christian, you can go ahead and take Star Wars Outlaws and get it out of here. It did not make my top 10 at all.
Wow.
The game, unfortunately, is very broken. Isn't enough to like where I couldn't finish it, but like just to where like it kept on bringing me out of that world. I got over the whole faces and animation thing on that because it's just a Ubisoft game. That's just kind of how they look. It got the vibe right. The soundtrack is good. It missed on so many things to where it's just I don't feel good about putting it in my top 10. I wouldn't recommend it to somebody put it that way. And if I can't recommend it to somebody, I'm not putting it in my top 10. But yeah, shout out to the other ones that didn't make it. I got two more here: Mini Shoot Adventure and I Am Your Beast. I didn't finish I Am Your Beast. It was just not my type of game. I'm sure it got great narrative and story, whatever. But it's not my bag. Mini Shoot Adventures, I finished it, but I just think it was kind of fairly basic. Nothing really to write home about on that one. But it's not a bad game. It's just, for all the other ones, I think they beat it out. My number 10 is not a game I would have played this year. It is Still Wakes the Deep. The game that Alex had me do. It's a good story. It looks great.
Right.
Did that game come out this year?
It came out this year. It did.
Nice.
Yeah,
okay.
So cool. I believe it is a very well written, very well voice acted. It is spoopy, but it wasn't too spoopy for me. It did get me a couple times, but it wasn't something I would normally play. Alex's recommendation for the Halloween games that we played through, and it was a great recommendation. Number 10 for me.
Nice. I too have Still Wakes the Deep on my list.
Nice.
One of two walking simulators that I played this year.
Right.
And Still Wakes the Deep actually comes in at number 9 for me. So
Dude,
it was
okay.
It was really good. Hey, I like the Chinese room. I loved Everybody Went to the Rapture, although this is a very different Chinese room team.
It is. I think there's a lot more going on with this type of game. To where like monsters are in there, you're kind of doing stuff. There's a lot of there's some chase kind of stuff that happens with it. I thought was really cool.
Yeah. It was uniquely Scottish, which I've never really experienced in a
which
game before. I really liked. Yeah. It's a goofy thing to say. I know Christian's got to laugh. It's weird, but
a lot of times when we get Scottish stuff, it's like Braveheart or something like that, to where it's like the stories aren't really there for history. It's just there for Hollywood, and people are using Scottish accents who aren't Scottish sometimes. And it's like, no, these are all Scottish voice actors, Scottish writers. Like it's very hard.
Yeah,
good.
Nice. Okay. What about you, Christian?
Yeah, mine is going to be a game I think only Preston and I played, but it is going to be a little game called Rabbit and Steel.
You're right. I did not play that, but I do know it.
This game is incredible. It was a game that came out of nowhere. I didn't know it was even a thing until it got mentioned by some friends of ours, and so I went and checked it out. It is incredibly fun. It is basically it's like a 2D roguelite that is basically nothing but Final Fantasy XIV raid mechanics. It's incredible. I don't know another way to sort of sell it to that. If you've ever played Final Fantasy XIV and you've ever thought like, man, I just love the fucking dance that happens with these raids and how you have to really be always, ABM, as Alex says, always be moving, and you're just really...
We're dancing. You're dancing.
Yeah, always doing stuff, and it's just all these different moves, and everything's popping out, and different things like that. If that interests you at all, or you've played it and it hooks you, this game is for you. You will love this game. It is so fun. And it's really, really quick to just pick up, do some runs, and then go. It's a constant install on my Steam Deck. I really, really dig it. Yeah, that's my number 9.
All right.
All right, my number 9. This is Tales of Kenzera Zao. So I had a lot of fun with this one. Played all the way through. Small
what is
team.
That?
Tales of Kenzera.
No, yeah.
Let me just spell that for you.
ZAU. Just put ZAU. Zao.
Yeah, you just put Zao if you want to, but
You know what? We got
Kenzera.
It's all right. All right, put Zao.
Fair enough. But yeah, it's a small developer first game. You would recognize the lead of the development company. He's also in House of Dragon. He is also in that one HBO Wolves show. I forget what the actual full name of it was called.
House of Wolves.
Is it House of Wolves? That weird sci-fi one?
House of Wolves. Yeah, it's not around anymore.
Yeah, so he played father. So yeah, he started up a little gaming company because he loves video games. And this was the first one they made.
Raised by Wolves.
Raised by Wolves. Yes, yeah, that sounds right.
Raised
that sounds
by
right.
Wolves.
Yep.
That's
so,
what it is.
Yeah, he came out on stage one year. I think it was last year's TGA show. He showed up and announced he was making a game. It's got a really cool art style. The colors pop like a motherfucker. It's like a basic Prince of Persia type of game, Metroidvania. It deals with the loss of a father. It was just very, very well done for a first game for that studio. So if you're looking for something that more of like if you like those Prince of Persia games but you think they're a little hard and you want something more simple, Zao is there for you. If you want something with a little father loss grief story with it, that is also doing a great job in how they told that story. So I'm excited to see what they do for their following games now that they've gotten their feet wet and have done a decent game. But yeah, the combat is a lot of fun, not too hard, great story. Love the game.
Cool. All right, number 8. I said I had a couple walking sims on here. My second and last walking sim comes in at number 8. The only reason it beat out Still Wakes the Deep is because it is prettier. To be fair, there was a lot more money behind it, and this was the ever so not as popular as it should have been Hellblade 2, Senua's Saga.
I am shocked that this game made your list, but okay, right on.
Yeah, it was good. It was just a walking sim. It really was.
Yeah.
Sure.
I liked it. It was pretty. Could have been faster.
Would you say it was more of a walking sim than the first one?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
When he talked about this game, he labeled it as a disappointment almost in every way, so I'm very shocked that it made its list. But
yeah. Time away from it, I think, gave me a little bit of rose-colored glasses, honestly. I would go back and play it again. It is pretty. It was just, it was disappointing at the time.
Hey, fair enough, man.
It's your list, man.
Yeah. Okay, my number 8 is going to be Animal Well. This is easily probably in my top 10 of Metroidvanias ever. I think that it's incredible. The art style, the music, everything that it does from that department, I think is really fun and unique. It is not done by any other Metroidvania that I've ever played. My favorite part about it, though, and it was something that I think I waited to talk about until now, but my favorite part about it is the way that it teaches you all of the different mechanics that the game has without ever once popping up a tutorial window. Like, as you are exploring in the environment, there's just things that happen that you'll be like, if you have a certain tool, you'll be like, I bet you I could do this. And then you'll sit there and you'll experiment, and then it'll just happen. And I've still never found the boundaries of something that I couldn't do in this game. Like, for instance, I was like, man, because you're just like this little Kirby avatar, basically. Like, you're just this little ball. And there's a moment where you have a disc that you throw around, and you get to use that as like a weapon to either distract, not a weapon, because there's no combat in the game, but like to distract enemies so that you can run by, or use it to smack things or whatever, right? And there's a moment where I was like, I bet you I could cross this gap if I could like get on this thing. And I just happened to jump and try, and of course you can land right on it and just coast and ride the disc, and it's just like, and a little achievement pops up. It's like, hey, you figured it out, and you're like, the fact that you intended this by just me seeing a gap and being like, I bet I could do this, and then like try to do it, and then it works, and then that happens throughout the rest of the game, is extremely, extremely hard to pull off, because you have to really have intuitive design throughout your entire game to make it so that people just bump into those kind of things. It also does the classic thing of, as soon as you beat the game, ultra hard mode basically opens up, and it's like, all right, get ready now. Like, there's crazy ass fucking trials that you can try to do that really put like the limit of, you know, what we can do platforming wise in this game, and it delivers. It's extremely difficult. But it was cool. I loved every second of it. As soon as I started it, I couldn't put it down.
Okay.
Yeah, I really dug it.
Cool.
All right. My number 8, everyone's wondering where I'm going to put this game, I'm assuming, is Zenless Zone Zero. For number 8.
Okay.
So Star Wars is God and Zenless Zone Zero is 8. I have no idea what his number 1 is going to to be. Christian and I thought for sure it'd be one of those two.
I've been screaming about my number 1 all year, getting ready for it, so you should know. But we'll see. We'll see when we get there. But yeah, it's a great game. It's a lot of fun. It is 1,000% one of those fucking MiHoYo gacha games. This one just gacha me. So that's where we're at with that one. I like the aesthetics of this one. The little bit of gameplay that you do get is pretty fun as well. And I think it looks fantastic. So, I mean, I enjoy the story when I'm following, when I'm playing. They're putting out stuff, you know, on a monthly basis as far as story and stuff for me to like get out more of the world. So if they weren't putting that story stuff in all the time for me, I probably wouldn't be playing it as much as often. Yeah. That, and I had to give them a little bit of something because, you know, they got Miyabi in my first 10 pull, you know. So I got them there. But no, it was going to end up on my top 10. I just didn't know where. Because as much as I love it and how I've been playing it all year, kind of like a Marvel Snap type of deal, I do recognize that it is not nearly as good of a game as all these other games that I have on my list, because this year was fantastic. So,
how long were you holding that gotcha me in your pocket for?
I was working on that one. I don't even think it's really that great. I mean, I was still working on it, but like it's how do I do gotcha me? How do we do it?
It's good.
We got there.
It's good.
We got there.
Yeah,
it's good. I liked it. All right. This is where my list, I think, gets a little bit fun. So this next game is one I didn't anticipate playing. I bought it on a whim, based off of just like what are the top games out this year. Lorelei and Laser Eyes,
all right,
which was...
Ugh, I'm so mad I didn't get to that game.
Super unique, cozy puzzle game. Cozy in the sense that like there's no action, right? Yeah. Like I'm not shooting and stuff like that, but there is some tension in it. But man, for me and Allie, like, who does Hunt a Killer date nights and other stuff and like those big puzzle boxes and everything else, like this is right up my alley. I loved it. I love figuring out the puzzles, the word puzzles, the number puzzles, and like writing shit down and having notes for days. I thought it was incredibly clever and different. So shout out to those devs. I forget who made it, but that was a very cool, unique game. So yeah, 8, Lorelei and Laser Eyes.
Nice.
Okay, so I'll go next.
No, sorry, 7, not 8. That was 7. Just kidding.
Yeah,
I can't. Unfortunately, Lorelei and Laser Eyes not teach me how to count. So
well, there's no numbers there, so you can throw it off.
Yeah. So my next one is going to be Warhammer 40K, not 49K, 40K, Space Marine 2.
Nice.
That is going to be my number 7. This game was incredible. It was everything that I wanted in a sequel to a game that I never thought I'd get a sequel to. I had all but given up hope that they were ever going to return to this game or this story or whatever. I remember during our... I don't even know if we were streaming it then, but during the Game Awards stream where they announced this game, I remember freaking out, being like, I cannot believe it.
Maybe we weren't streaming. We were all together.
I know
we were all playing games and stuff. I forget if we were streaming it too.
Yeah, and I was very, very excited, and it lived up to every expectation that I had with it. They keep adding new content. It's extremely fun. Preston and I played through the entire co-op mode together. It's awesome. And we also did the story for him all co-op as well. There is moments and set pieces in that story mode that are some of the coolest Warhammer related things that I've ever seen in my life.
Cool set pieces.
A one that I will spoil that it still gets me every single time that I see it is the Dreadnought scene towards the end of the game where you're running out of the tunnel. That part has been spoiled a bunch, where you see like this chaos sort of Dreadnought that's sitting there, and the Dreadnought busts through the wall and like shoves his chain gun in the middle of it and just starts like fucking firing and kills it. And then he's like, "Where are the traitors?" And then like this whole thing, like, and you fucking has it follow you out there. But the best part isn't one that people share nearly enough, in my opinion. But you're walking down the slope towards like one of the final like combat zones, and there's a Helldrake that shows up and it starts flying across. And they're like, Jesus, your squad mates are like, what the fuck are we going to do about this thing? And the Dreadnought's like, that piece of shit is mine. And like grabs a statue and just whips it. And it's like, in the name of the Emperor, I cast you down. And fucking hits it and kills the Helldrake. And then one of the characters on your squad is like, Jesus Christ. I mean, like, just like, it's just like, oh my God. And it was awesome, though. It was just every single mission had a scene where you were like, this is so cool, I don't know how they're going to top it, and then they just keep doing it. Like, even the battle scene towards the end where like Titus is holding the standard and he's sitting the pistol and it's just waves of enemies, and then there's like somebody's like, you know, trying to pull one Space Marine up and he's like, my legs are gone, and he's like just like stands him up so that he can just fire like as a torso. Like, it's just wild. It's perfect in every way as far as what you would want from a Warhammer game. And they even have all sorts of different modes. They have the PvP, they have the PvE, they have the regular story mode. Like, there's just so much there. And yeah, I think it's a great game. So
it's a big year for us in Warhammer, because we were introduced to the games through Space Marine 1 that we played in the book club.
Yep.
Right, which got pressed into the second one. The second one I wanted to play and never had a chance to. I was very busy with work and didn't have a chance to sit down and play with you guys. But it opened up a whole world to me of like diving into the lore, like stories. And I tried Rogue Trader, and now Henry Cavill's show has been greenlit.
That's good
it's
to go.
moving forward. So
yeah,
very cool. What you got, Preston?
Next up for me, number 7, a little game called Pepper Grinder. If you're looking for a somewhat fast-paced platformer, this one's a lot of fun, very pixelized. The lady gets a hammer fist, and she can go in and out of the ground, pop out, hit some things, just do a whole bunch of platforming puzzle type of levels. Even one of the last levels is like just trucks full of dirt. So like the trucks are driving, and you're kind of going through this platforming section. You're bouncing in and out of the trucks as like this other boss is like firing at the trucks and knocking them down. If you're wanting just I wouldn't say simple, because there's some pretty difficult parts of it, but if you're just wanting just a plain good old platformer that's not super duper long, this is something I would say I would definitely pick up. In a year where we didn't get any 2D Marios this year or anything like that, it's nice to have a decent platformer to play around with if you're into those kind of things. So take a look at the trailer. I mean, if you're watching this video on YouTube, you'll see some of the stuff I'll have above us. As far as seeing what it is, but it's got its almost pixelated style, and I think it nails what it's trying to do, and I think it does an excellent job. If you're looking for a platformer, check it out.
Nice. All right. For me, my number 6 6 game came on a recommendation and a plea from somebody on the pod to play this game. That's one of their, like, you have to play it this year. So mine will be Nine Souls.
Nice.
So Nine Souls, a little Metroidvania with some other, like, people related it to like the FromSoft type games and just difficulty, but it was like an actiony, actiony Metroidvania that had a unique story. Kind of subverted expectations a little bit in where the story was going, I think.
I think it's closer, if they were going to compare to a From game, I think it's closer to like Sekiro.
Yeah, because the parry is so important, right?
Yeah.
But I enjoyed it. It was a cool story. It was a fun game, perfect on Steam Deck at the time, something I needed. And
great Steam
they had
Deck
some
game.
really unique levels, and had a lot of fun with it with my time in it. So
I just liked it.
9 Souls in that one.
Thank you, no one, for putting Nine Souls at number 9.
Oh, sure, yeah. So my number 6 probably going to be a bit of an issue for people, but we'll see.
Okay.
My number 6 is Metaphor.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Christian.
Yep. This is, first of all, just so we're clear, because we have to say this every year, it making it on this list, it does not mean it being number 6 does not mean it's a bad game. It means that I liked it quite a lot. I don't even remember.
Refantasio,
yeah, whatever. Okay, that's not even a word. So, but yeah, I think Metaphor is great. I think that it gets rid of a lot of the Persona tropes that I have issues with, or that have grown stale over the years. It does a nice job of refreshing those up. It takes combat from the Trail series and inputs that as opposed to the normal sort of Persona combat that it's had before. The soundtrack in this, the Esperante like soundtrack and stuff, is incredible. I really dig that. I thought, honestly, my only criticism of the game is that I think the story is pretty, like, I don't know. It's fine. I don't think that there's any sort of issues with it. I think that it's just very predictable is probably the word that I
kind
would
of your
use.
basic fantasy story.
Yeah,
Can I give you one other complaint with that game?
Sure.
The really arbitrary number ranking system. As
far as
your popularity or the
I mean that, but they've done that in all their games. Like
they put so much shit into like your popularity, and like little things like that could be fixed with simple like if you do this act, it will gain you X amount of popularity or Y. But like, and no, I get they do it, but it is just a thing. Like it's for no reason something they put a lot of weight onto, and
they didn't do enough of the math to where like you would get there to a certain point. You're like, I got 13 days left until this one point. And you're getting things that would knock that number down, but it just wiggles a bit because you've already gone down as low as they want you to go. So it's not gonna let you go down anymore. Like I got Juna's team. All of her fans are on my side, and you're saying that I didn't move one fucking level on this popularity ranking? Fuck off. That was the only complaint I'll have about Metaphor.
Or opposite, you go from 662 to like 103.
It jumps
for no.
Then it takes it all away from you for you to go back to 2 again.
Yeah.
I think honestly there was nothing in the outside of the twist in the game where it shows, and we'll talk. I know, Press, this isn't a spoiler for you because you've seen this already, but where they show that you're the prince. Outside of that twist, everything else I was like, and I even had like an inkling that I was potentially the prince. I was like, I don't know, we'll see, maybe, blah blah blah.
See that at all.
But they sort of foreshadow it by when Gallica is talking to you, and then like you get into the like. I saw it coming once you hit the village where Gallica was like trying to, and people were like, I don't know who the fuck you're talking about, like, and I was like, well, that doesn't make any sense because I would have been right there. So maybe their memory got wiped or whatever, and I was like, no, I think that I just didn't exist, and Gallica.
I actually didn't see it coming either. To be fair, I thought I didn't.
Yeah, it's fine.
I didn't expect the not existing thing coming.
Again,
so I thought it was okay.
This is not it being bad. Like I'm not saying that Metaphor is a bad.
You're explaining yourself as to why it's in the middle.
I'm just saying, yeah. There was games that I played that affected me more. I think that Metaphor absolutely is one of the better JRPGs that I've ever played. It's certainly my favorite Persona team game. So
it's a nice new direction.
Yes.
It is, and I hope that they continue to do something like that going forward. The only other thing is, and I think we all talked about this when it happened, I do not understand the arbitrary switch for a few dialogue lines of the prince when he gets a British voice and then goes back to the regular one. It's very strange, and I don't know why they did that, but otherwise, I was the only other moment that I looked at the game, I was like, what happened here? What are we doing?
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a very good game. I think the combat, everything about it, is extremely satisfying, and God, that soundtrack gets stuck in your head.
Oh yeah.
There was one thing though that happened last night where I had to turn the game on mute. So part of the normal world music is this Gregorian chanting. Yeah, exactly. What Presto did is no exaggeration. That's literally what it is. So I was playing on the Steam Deck last night, and the volume was turned down because Allie and I were like watching TV, but it was still like you could still hear it, but like the littlest bit because those speakers are small speakers. When you turn stuff down, the mixing is a little wonky. It has to prioritize what it's going to do, right? They're not full blast. So all I could hear with like no music was the hey, yeah. And I was like, I cannot do this. It was just forever not ending us running around the final dungeon. I was like, nah, I can't. It's got to go on mute. Yeah. But beyond that, the soundtrack is a banger.
They nail that battle theme too, where like as it swells up and then like the voice comes in, like as you're about to start getting, like if you're set up in a way where you're about to do a bunch of turns and like really smoke something, and that voice comes in and it's like the big like it's perfect. Yeah, I like it.
All right, so next up, number 6, Helldivers 2. So I was a big fan of Helldivers 1, and they're like Helldivers 2. I'm like, okay, and they're showing that third person behind the back. I'm like, oh, okay, we're going from top down, like Dead Nation, Alien Nation style games I used to love, and we're gonna put this third person. I'm like, let's see how it does. And it blew up, and we enjoyed the little time that we did play with it, that month or so. We did enjoy a lot of it, and I've wanted to go back to it multiple times, but it's not a game I necessarily want to go back by myself. I've seen the homie Zach. He's been in there a couple times. I kind of want to hang out with him sometimes. Like I see him. I'm going to play Metaphor. I'm like, oh, he's playing Helldivers. I'm like, I could play a little bit of Helldivers right now. It was an incredibly well done game. Great ideas all around. The best way to do battle passes is how they do it. Battle passes happen and they stay there forever. Use whatever currency you want to unlock whatever you want at whatever battle pass. It's the perfect way, the best consumer-friendly way to do battle passes.
I think Marvel Versus is doing that now.
Marvel Rivals?
Rivals, yeah. And they're the first game, from what I hear from influencers, they're the first game to ever do it.
So we'll see how it goes when we hit season 1, because I hear that there might be some ways of how the currency doesn't transfer over, and you might not... We'll see how that looks on season 1 when Marvel Rivals happens, and then I'll kind of speak to it then.
First people to ever do it.
But yeah, Helldivers 2, great way to make a sequel to that game that I enjoyed thoroughly back in the day. It definitely deserves its spot for sure.
All right, number 5 for me is going to be a game that I love. I play a lot. This was an expansion, and it was a fantastic expansion. But it is Final Fantasy XIV Dawn Trail. Did you say piece of shit?
I did.
I struggled with where to put this one.
Should have been.
I mean, I was like, I want to put it higher. If you don't like this pick, you're definitely not going to like the next one.
I'm sure.
I love my time with this game. Again, it made it on the list. It's fantastic. I've been playing this game every day. Just, doing my Beast Drive quests and everything else.
I'll say,
maintain.
When it compares to you guys and the expansions that have come out for 14, this one you guys seemed not as lower. Hyped on compared to the others.
It's lower. It's not as good as the last one. Well, no, I don't think that's true. It's not as good as the last one, and Christian would admit that. But to be fair, the last one's a culmination of 10 years of work, right?
No, I don't agree. No.
No? Okay. No. So, yeah, to me, I think this expansion is a little bit lower, not because it's bad. It's the start of a new story. It asks a lot of questions. I love the quality of life stuff they've done. I love the dungeons and raid stuff that they've done. I think
overall I think it's probably like, I think when I finish, I think it's probably like my third favorite or something like that. Mm-hmm. I think the story of Endwalker, by nature of what Endwalker was, is better than Dawn Trail. Dawn Trail on the whole, so I would probably put Endwalker above it, like as far as if I was like trying to rate them or whatever. But I would say that everything else from a Dawn Trail perspective, all of the fights, all of the locales, the way that it looks, the way
I think that's a good way to articulate. That's a good way to articulate. I think what I was trying to say. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think by nature of 10 years of what Endwalker was.
Like the story, but I never thought the story stuff could be. I didn't think that it was ever going to be able to be there. But from every other aspect of this, like the way that it plays, the fights, all of the raids so far, everything about it has been A+ in my opinion from that perspective.
And I've loved my time with this game. If I was rating my Final Fantasy XIV experience over the year as a whole, this would have been the best experience that I had, and not just from this. I'm talking about like the grindy shit that Christian and I did that we will never do again. Like all the time I sit there for the Eureka stuff, and then the Baldur's
That should have been our
like,
Testes moment of the year.
I know. Awesome. I know. So like, so that's a good point. So I think if I just look at my experience with indie game this year, my time with 14 and the things that Christian and I did with it tops everything, every game that I've played. But if I'm looking at just the expansion, for me it is. It was a tough one. I thought about putting it up a spot or two, but it is 5.
We'll get there.
Yeah, I know you're gonna hate my next one.
I know I am. I already know what it's gonna be, and then I'm going to lose my fucking mind. Go ahead. Oh, it's mine.
Yeah, it's yours.
Mine is going to be UFO 50.
Okay.
For my number 5 pick. This is a game that I think is incredibly special, for many, many different reasons. And in any other year, it would be... there are games inside UFO 50 that I think are better than some regular games that came out this year. One of them being Bushido Ball is an incredible video game. Space Quest, also very, very good. Camouflage. I could go on and on. There's so many games that are in there that I really dig. Mortal. But really what it comes down to is I think that it is an incredibly important game. Much like Atari 50, I think that there is something to be said about a game that sort of tries to emulate what it would be like. Like, the whole premise of the game is that you opened up a storage unit, you found what is essentially like a Commodore 64 sitting on a table, and you found a bunch of discs, and you're just like, fuck it, let's just see what's happening. And they're all games that are supposed to be from that time period, from that era, and then takes you through the evolution of game design throughout the life cycle of that console. Like the first game all the way to the last, like when developers were just trying to figure stuff out, and then what happened when they fucking, had their mind all around a console. It's something that we see all the time with consoles in general, right? Like, think, early PS2 game versus end of life PS2 game. They don't even look the same. Like, but when you watch that kind of growth of being like, we're going to squeeze every sort of ounce of whatever we can get out of these little boxes and see how it goes, like, it's really, really cool. And it's hard for a game to... I think it's hard for games in general to try to capture that magic. So for a package to capture that and put it out as a full release, and you straight up... There's some titles where you try them and you're like, nope, not for me. And guess how many times that happened when you were a kid, when you were putting a game in? All the time. Like, it's so... And then you move on to the next one and you're like, this might be the best game that I've ever played. Like, it's just... It's incredible. And from a preservation piece and trying to sort of show that kind of stuff, I think that it's second to none in a lot of respects for that. So, yeah, I think it's awesome. That's my number 5.
Okay. My number 5, if I can load up my phone again, there we go. This one will be Space Marine 2. So everything that Christian said about it, kind of double that up on there. It is nice when you get, a co-op experience with your friend and we're having a fun time with it. The set pieces in this game are fucking wild. Like, when you think of Warhammer 40k stuff, you think how wild that gets. This game nails it as far as, like, all the crazy ass shit that you can see. Especially with stuff in the background. Like, just not to mention the hordes of these Xeno type of monsters. They are just coming in from outside the screen. I don't know when or where it stops to where it becomes from its video or whatever, pre-render, to actual, those hordes become enemies that you could shoot, enemies that crawl up on the building that you're at. Like, it's the scope of this game is something that I haven't seen for a very long time. Like God of War tries to nail that sometimes with its big scope type of stuff, as far as like these large places, these larger than life beings. Space Marine 2 fucking knocks it out of the park. Yeah. And now I've touched Space Marine lore. Like I said, we've done a D&D group once before with my old group, to where it was, we're going to use this type of play setting, but we're using the lore of Warhammer as far as like what I got. That's where I learned about the orcs and how they paint things red to make them go faster. Like Warhammer lore is crazy and awesome.
They're basically a fungus.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's Warhammer lore has always been there in the back of my head, but playing through Space Marine 1 and then that leading up to Space Marine 2 coming out as we finished Space Marine 1 was a great kind of setup to kind of keep that continuation going. And did really well with it. Comparing it to the 1 to 2, it does everything it needs to do and 1,000 times more. And you can add all the 40K heads out there. You can now, in a 3D set in a video game, play your painted figures because you can paint them the colors you want. You can start mismatching parts once you unlock them. So everyone's living their dream if they ever like Warhammer 40K. But yeah, it's great game. Yeah,
I agree. And shout out to the developer, because it was it's the same people who do A Plague's Tale, which is one of Alex's favorite games, and that rat tech.
Oh yeah, you can definitely see what they did with that to kind of move it over to the other game.
Yeah.
Hey, if they keep it, maybe they'll be the ones who do the remake for KOTOR, because they're currently the ones that are heading it right now. So we'll see. So far, I've liked the games that they put out, so it's good. Yeah, it's a good sign. Yeah, as long as they don't get taken away from it.
All right, so let's just get 4 out of the way. That's going to be Shadow of the Erdtree.
Okay, never mind.
Okay.
That's fine. Yeah, I don't care.
Good game. Of course, the game before it was a Game of the Year winner. Why would it not be good?
More of the same? Yeah, sure.
It is good. And I had one better experience than Christian, in that I didn't screw myself on New Game Plus, so I was able to go right into it without having to play again.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's all. I don't need to talk about that game. Everybody knows what this Elden Ring is.
Yeah. So my number 4 is going to be a game called Mouthwashing.
Oh, there you go. The not scary game, right, Christian?
The not scary game, correct. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Alex, I know you didn't get into it because you were playing Metaphor.
Yes.
Which is fine.
which just so everybody knows, it's not that I didn't want to get to it. I finished Metaphor today, this morning. Yeah. So it took up a lot.
Mouthwashing is on my list. It is one of the coolest stories. Like, it's so cool on how this story is told. I think from an art design perspective and the way that they sort of tackle sort of the psychological elements of that game are really, really well done. I think that stuff is awesome, but the story, I think, is really the clever piece here. I don't want to. I mean, we're here, so it's fine. But I think they do an incredible job of making the most unlikable villainous character I have ever.
That's not a villain, yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, but it's like is the sort of like antagonist of the game as you go through. But like, man, God, Jimmy is such a piece of shit. He
is a piece of shit.
The way you find out, like, the way they breadcrumb it to you is so masterfully done, in my opinion. Like, as you're playing, is you play as Jimmy for most of the game, and you're sitting there and you're like, man, like, this Jimmy guy, like, it starts and you're like, this Jimmy guy seems like he's been put in an unfortunate position and this sucks. I don't know what I would do in this situation. And then as it keeps going, you find out little bits of detail and a little bit more things through either memories of Jimmy or through memories of the captain, or through what the ship is showing you, like, due to the psychological stuff that's going on. And as you get going on, you're like, well, maybe it sounds like Jimmy maybe is kind of a piece of shit, actually. And then, like, it goes and goes, and then you find out that, like, I don't know that I want to give it fully away, but it's just, you find out some, an actual, like, so many different crimes that he commits that would be enough to get like a life sentence on their own, and you find out that he's just like covering all of his bases and making sure that he gets like a quadruple life sentence by the time he gets back, and then his only fucking response is like, my bad, but what the fuck do you want me to do about it now, kind of thing, is just like a, oh, you piece of
not sorry
shit.
at all. Yeah.
Like, and then so these things start happening to him, and you're like, you're the one controlling, but you're like, good, I hope more keeps happening to you. You're a scumbag. Like, it's just, yeah. Narratively speaking, when I got done with that game, this was the game that I was talking about when I was saying before, like, I played Thousand X Resist first, and then I did Mouthwashing, and thank God that I did, because even though I really liked Thousand X Resist, it did not make it on my list, but I really think Thousand X Resist deserves, like, a lot of shout-outs and credits for the way that it handles its narrative and sort of the themes that it tackles and the way that it does it, I think are really, really well done. Had I played these in a reverse order, I think I would be much less kinder to Thousand X Resist, because Mouthwashing's narrative just grabbed me and didn't like it's 3.5 hours of just pedal down the entire time. Like, it's great. So yeah, that's my number 4.
Okay. My number 4. I don't know why my phone does not want to recognize my face. Number 4. Neva. Neva is one of the most...
I thought this was going to be your number 1, to be honest.
Oh, did you? Neva is one of the most beautiful games I've ever seen in my entire life. I say the same thing with Gris, right? They made those artists that wanted to make a game. So they made the most artful game you could possibly make. It looks incredible. I love the gameplay a lot more than I love the gameplay in Gris. Gris is more like a walking simulator almost, or a walking art piece, if you will. But this has a little bit of combat into it, a little bit more of the platforming, and a little bit of chase, but definitely more combat altogether. But I thought this was an incredible game. Now, Alex is not going to play the game, so if we want to, we can kind of spoil the ending and talk about why I may have said that it wouldn't be that big of a deal if he plays it.
Yeah, so
why you may have lied.
So this is what happened. So from my perspective, and then we can go more into the game. So I think I agree with everything you said. I think that the game, for better or for worse, sometimes, but I think that it is very clearly people who are very, very talented at art, and they decide to make a game. Like,
that's all that studio does. Yeah.
It still has like the missable like secret things that you figure out afterwards, and the game
shows
goes,
you a
"Fuck
little bit
you,
in the
can't go
distance."
backwards," and you're like, "Okay, well, I guess." And it's like, "Yeah, but if you want, just replay the level." And it's like, "I don't want to do that, so like, just let me go backwards." Either way, it's fine. But there's that. So the story though opens with your character, and it is not apparent at the time, but it becomes apparent later that it is basically showing you the end of the game and then saying, here's how we got here. So the end of the game is...
also the beginning of the game.
Also the beginning of the game. So you start and you are facing these giant, like, sort of shadow creatures. They kill Neva, and you are sitting there and you sort of have, like, the little child pup with you. And you're like, I guess I have to raise this thing. And then it cuts and it keeps going. Now, there's nowhere on the screen to say, like, a few months ago, a few years ago, whatever. You just start the game. And then you have a small little pup. Its name is Neva. You call to it and you're like, oh, I'm going to intuit then that the mom just died and the pup I rescued is Neva. Great. So you go through the entire game. You get stronger. You get all these upgrades. You do these things. And you're like, man, I am a real badass.
And that little pupper grows each season. Because it's all based on seasons.
Yeah, so it keeps
spring,
getting bigger
summer,
and bigger.
fall, winter. And then every season it gets a little bit bigger, has a little bit more abilities.
Yeah, there's a point where in the beginning, Neva is basically something that you have to protect the whole time.
Yes.
It's very scared. It's just like hides from everything. Yeah. It's a liability almost. There's enemies that will try to grab her and and you have to like rush over there and save her to do something, whatever. And then as it gets more and more, Neva becomes like a nuke that you get to use that just like
you
smokes
just press a button and it starts going after things.
It's
very cool.
And so you get through there, and then a cutscene starts, and you're like,
this is looking awful
this
familiar.
seems familiar. And then you're like, oh, I see what's happening. And so they play that same scene again, and Neva dies again. And that was the part that I was like, here's why Alex wouldn't want to play this game. Is that, yes, Preston, you are right. Neva only technically dies once.
Yeah, because you saw the trailer. I'm like, well, it's the same part you're seeing again at the end.
But
if you can handle that part, you can handle the rest of the game, right?
They make you bond with it.
Yes,
they do.
The game
You're not wrong.
Makes you go through and bond with it, and then you realize, oh shit, I was doing, like, that was this part, and now the child I rescue is Paloma or whatever, which is the actual pup, and you're like, oh, fuck me, okay, and then it goes from there. The reason that I think that part, the reason that I thought, or that, because I remember saying this and I said I would bring it up, is that I thought that it was a little emotionally, like, cheap, was that the main character gets so strong by the end with all of the upgrades and everything that you get that it is crazy to me that 3 little shadow enemies that I basically am able to take out at one swing by this point with how upgraded I am just clean out knock me unconscious, like, and there's nothing I can do, and she's basically like and like reaches forward like, no, stop. Meanwhile, Neva is like full Great Wolf Sith status and is like ripping through all these enemies, and it's like
teleporting around and shit.
Yeah, and you're just like, you want to scream at the screen, like, get up, you fucking dork, go help the dog. Leading up to that moment, you were taking out scores of enemies, like together. Sure. There's a screen before that has like 15 enemies on it, and you solo them by yourself until Neva shows up to like keep going, and you guys kill, or you almost kill the main bad until you're able to kill the main bad, kind of thing, whatever. But it's this whole piece where I'm just like, I just don't, okay, I guess, but like, I don't know why. It doesn't make any sense to me that the main character would get just clean knocked out by 3 little shadows after I just killed 40 of them moments prior.
Yeah, I didn't think about that.
But it's just it's just from a game. But again, I think that leads to what you're talking about, Preston, of this game is made by people who are artists first.
Oh yeah.
Like, and it is gorgeous from the top bottom. Like, there are skyboxes in this game.
There's zoom outs that are fucking mind blowing.
There are certain backdrops and like certain, like, just even environmental design stuff. The way they designed some of the animals, the enemies, all that stuff. All of it is very, very good to look at. Like, there's, from an art perspective, there's just nothing you can change.
Oh, hell yeah.
I think that they knock it out of the park each time. It's just little gameplay stuff in there. And again,
it'll be
there's a lot of people who don't have a problem with it. Like, if you go look at the and I even don't have a problem. Like, I think this game is still great. It's just, it's this time of year. It's game of the year, so we're talking about stuff. But
they did the emotional gut punching.
They did kind of
right.
Take it.
So the question,
first, yeah.
So the question is going to be, is that their shtick? Like, can they actually make a game that doesn't rely on just the emotional piece? Yeah, that tells a good story, right?
The last game was the mother of death, yeah.
Because if you can't, now you're just a pretty
I'm very curious to see what they do next.
You're
it's just about death.
Right?
They're like, okay, let's get guy just makes very artful games about death. That's what they do.
It won't be very artful games about death. It'll be, I make very artful games and I'm not a good writer. And that'll be so that it'll be interesting to see
their team has grown, so I'm sure they'll get more writers and people in.
Yeah,
and that's just an opinion, right? Like, I mean, like, if you look on like the subreddits and different stuff, like, there is people who believe that this is just the second coming of Christ, and that's great. Like, I hope that's. I think that every game should. I hope that games affect people like that all the time, no matter what kind of game it is. So that's awesome. It was just, for me, it was one of those things where the emotional thing hits in the beginning and you're like, damn, that's tragic. And then you go and, it sort of fakes you out, and that you're trying to, like, okay, I'm powering up. Like, I'm never going to let that happen again. That's what I'm doing. Like, I'm going to defeat this person. And then it's like, oh, no, that was the end. It's like, well, if that was the end, then why did I get smoked so easily? Because it doesn't make any sense to me, because, but again, it's just
Sure.
that it's a personal thing, and I think that there's some people who will hit differently. But that was a very good game.
I say I'm sure it's good. We praised Gris when we played it, right? Just not doing the Popo thing. So.
Completely understandable. Totally understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's why it says that watching that dog die twice after Alex bonds to it, thinking that it's the new puppy, will absolutely murder him. And there was
that's fair.
I had to warn him.
I'm glad you caught that.
Yeah.
All right, so my number 3. Don't have to talk about this one too much. Although building on Christian's people enemies that are just shitty people. My number 3 is Metaphor.
Okay.
Luis is just a douchebag. He is just straight henchman, up
that one guy.
Yeah, that one's interesting.
Oh yeah.
Luis is just. I am matter of fact. Mm-hmm. This is my end game. This is why I think it's right. I'm not listening to your opinion. I've made my own opinion. It's just he's so. Luis is. He's so they try to talk him out of it. Yeah, they try to talk him out of it or talk to him about it. He's just no hard feelings. Nobody's no hard feelings. It's not personal. This is just the way I see the end game, and this is what it is, and I'm going about it. I'm so matter of fact about it.
Luis is very close to a sympathetic villain, and there's a couple missteps in his character that I think stop him from getting there, and that's kind of why it fell where it did on my list. But I think the mark of a good villain is one that when they explain their motives and why they think like that, you as the player go, I mean, I don't agree, but I can see how you got there. And Luis is very close. He has the whole thing where he was in Elda who watched the whole village get burned and nobody did anything. And so he was like, I'm never going to let this happen again. Da, da, da. And there's moments where as soon as people start finding that out and you start talking about that and you're like, damn, he really did pull the heist of a lifetime to get to a position of power where it couldn't be stopped again, or it couldn't happen again. And then you go hey man, I know what happened to the village. I know why you're doing this. Let's talk down. He's like, oh, I don't care about that. That's not yes, that did happen, and yes, I was there, but there were other things like the nobility and all that other stuff that pissed me off more. And you're like, oh well, okay, well then now you just are one note all of a sudden. Yeah. But it's one of those things where there was moments that they lead up to that reveal that you're like, oh, this could turn maybe it could be one of those situations. And then Luis kind of just cuts it off at the knees and is like, no, I just I don't care about any of that. It did happen, and so I mean now you know, but it's not why I'm doing this. And you're like, oh well, okay then.
I think that's the struggle with Atlas. The teams at Atlas is that's why some games are great and some games are okay and people have their favorites. It's just they hold everything for the reveal, but in anime there's multiple reveals. Yeah,
there's 3 or 4,
right?
And 2 or 3 of them.
And so sometimes, and so sometimes you kind of you don't write yourself into a hole, but it's hard to be okay, timeline which would affect the player more first, what should be revealed in time and so on. But it's they have to build on the reveal, so they do kind of write themselves into a hole sometimes. Still great, but it's my number 3.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. It's still very good. So my number 3 is going to be Trails Through Daybreak.
I almost forgot. I almost forgot Trails game came out this year.
It was very early.
that was 2023. We're all Trails games.
No, it was February is when this game launched, and Trails Through Daybreak 2 will be launching this February. So,
and you got the remake of Trails
1 coming later in the
what was the full name of it?
The year.
Of the Sky?
Trails in the Sky.
Trails of the Sky. Yep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I will give that one a chance. I'll start there. Sure.
Yeah, that remake looks incredible. Yeah, so I'm hoping that it lives up. Or I hope they don't change anything, because as long as they leave that game alone, then it'll
make
be
it look
perfect.
better. Don't do anything else.
Yeah. So Trails Through Daybreak, the reason that it made it it was tough. The reason it made it so high on my list is that it is a return to form in many ways about what I liked about the writing of this series, and has completely ditched sort of the Persona style things that they were emulating through Cold Steel. And it's back to just being its own thing. It's a matter like this combat is what Metaphor based its combat off of. And obviously this game has been out for a couple years in Japan already, so but this is its English release, so that's what I'm basing this off of. Yeah, I mean, all of the characters are great through this game. It handles the sort of gray morality stuff that I know, Alex, you played through the first game, so that you're familiar with how that game does some of those decisions that it handles. The writing is it's back to being just through the roof great. They're like, you go through the story, it's awesome, and then they found out a way to one up the mechs that they had in the Cold Steel, and they have like a new sort of thing here that's fucking awesome and really cool. Yeah, I don't know. It's just it just continues to be quality throughout, and it's very surprising, and I can't wait to see where they go from here. And thankfully, I won't have to wait too long because it will be out in just a few months.
There you go. 2 months, yeah.
So that is that.
All right. My number 3. Persona 3 Reload is my number 3 game of the year. I have dabbled with trying to do Fez. I got Fez on PS2. It is a bummer that you don't get to choose between male and female protagonists, even though that was an option for you on a previous version of the game. This one, you just stick with the male protagonist. But they have worked, at least the visuals, from the ground up. Like it looks like a Persona 5 level of quality game. And it just eats up everything. It looks fantastic. I really like the story. It is a Persona story. You're going to be at a school. You're going to the school for this year because of something that you did, kind of thing, or something that's happening in your life. You go through it. The twists and turns in there are fantastic. There was a death of a character. I can't remember his name off the top of my head right now, but it was a big, big surprise to me. I remember sitting with one of our friends, Christian, who also played this game, who we both talked to on the side. We were going back and forth with that little reveal. It was very crazy. I would love for you guys, if you guys get time, I know Christian bought it on Steam, but if you guys got time for it.
I'll tell you, the second that I'm done with, and honestly, don't go into too. I mean, I know.
I'm not gonna get. I don't want to give names like that, but like it's
any differences. I don't want to know, but every day I get closer to stopping Cyberpunk and playing this game.
Sure. Okay.
So you're almost trust me. It is there.
It's great. I mean, if you want to compare it to like something like Metaphor, I think the only thing I would like more in Persona 3 that I liked in Metaphor is I prefer the type of soundtrack Persona games give over what I got with Metaphor. Metaphor is a fantastic fantasy soundtrack. I prefer a little bit more of like urban hip hop, a little bit of pop as well into that. I love the soundtrack. There is a theme song that kind of has a piano like da-na, 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 da-na. It kind of goes back between like two notes over and over again. When you get to the final area, like it's the final section, it's quieter, it's slower, but it's that theme, and I would get like goosebumps like going through. It's like bum 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 bum. Oh my god, that song alone is one of my favorite things out of this past year.
Persona 3 is such a special game just in general because it really is the kicking off point for what Persona team did
SMT
going forward.
to Persona.
Because 1 and 2 were basically just SMT games that had like a little bit extra story. But Persona 3 really was the kickoff of like, we're going to start doing something different. And look what it birthed. I mean, it birthed the whole thing.
The best JRPGs, I feel, as far as 4 Golden and 5 and 5 Royale. And Metaphor, to be fair.
Just for those listening that aren't familiar, Shin Megami Tensei is the other thing that Atlas does.
Exactly.
SMT.
Yeah. SMT.
When they said SMT games.
SMT games, as they will. But yeah, no, I thoroughly enjoy this. It's got this. It still has the only thing that still kind of shows as far as the age of that game is kind of its grindy dungeon area, right? Every Persona game has one. This one is a tower that you would go through, and everything is kind of mostly samey outside of the enemies as you go up through this tower. You cannot unlock the rest of that tower until you finish a certain part of the actual story chapters. So you go through it, you find the gate, you stop there, you go back, and there's no like real, like the other games had palaces that are like for each individual kind of person. This is more just kind of changes up the background of the areas, but that's just due to it being the third, of all these games. But overall, I think it was an insanely good remake. Games that get remade, I hope, are just more done like that, to where it's like, yeah, they may. I don't know if they changed the story a lot. I'd have to ask somebody who actually played through the original Persona 3. I think there are some small things that they may have like changed here and there, but overall, I think it's pretty much the same game, just with a really nice coat on top of everything. And they may have changed up some more stuff about saves and things like that, just more modern stuff that you would add to it. I didn't really dive into what makes it different, but yeah, Persona 3 Reload, an incredible Persona game, remade to look more modern, so you don't have to cringe at it too much if you don't like those older type of games.
So definitely not as much of a change as Resident Evil was.
I don't know. I never played the Resident Evil games. Christian, when you finish Persona 3 Reload, you talking about that?
Yeah, I will.
Number 2. This was tough for me. I have 2 games this year that I put over 100 hours into, and like lots of time. Don't give me that look. Number 2 for me is Black Myth Wukong.
Oh, okay.
So
we're good. I think we're going to be very happy with each other here in just a minute. So that's great.
Black Myth Wukong, man, that game set out to do a thing, and it did its thing. I love the. We play a lot of Japanese games. I love Japanese culture. This is different because it's Chinese. We don't get a whole lot of Chinese culture focus based games.
This is the, outside of Stellar Blade, which launched last year, this is the first, I think, of all of those Chinese based.
We saw trailers for a bunch of
for a few years ago. We've seen a bunch, right? Like we saw one for Stellar Blade. We saw one that kind of looked like a like Noctis from Final Fantasy 13, or 15, like an action game. Then there was Black Myth Wukong, and I think there was one other one.
I mean,
and so far out of
Marvel Rivals is a Chinese game.
Yep, Marvel Rivals is one. Yep, and
okay,
NetEase.
But yeah, but this is, I think, the first game that has seen any amount of critical success.
Yeah.
I mean, it changed
cultural impact.
It changed. Yeah, cultural impact, sure. Like introducing people to Chinese, like a very significant Chinese story, but also like increasing tourism, much in the way that I think that Ghost of Tsushima did to Japan a few years ago. Like,
what's so funny about that is that Dragon Ball is basically Journey to the West. Like it is based on that, but nobody knows that. So they're like, man, this is my first time noticing that. It's like, well, you're wearing a Dragon Ball T-shirt right now as you.
Well, so I think the reason that people don't know it is because Dragon Ball tells its own story.
Later in Z it does, but in the beginning it's very much. But yes, yeah.
But this one, I think they did an interesting thing where like they expect you to know it. So if you don't know it, it encourages you to go find out your
Interesting is a choice of a word.
Because that's like after the fact of the actual Journey to the West, right? Black Myth?
It is a continuation to Journey to the West. But it incorporates so much. Just like
it expects you to have it expects you to have finished the book right before you press start.
But also like not just finish the book because you may not remember everything, like know the book deeply. Like the first boss you fight at the top of the mountain, the Black Bear Guy, is like I shouldn't say because I don't know A Journey to the West well enough, but like is a character in the book who transforms one of the guys that owns a monastery that Sun Wukong makes his way to. Anyway, things happen. But like the Black Bear Guy is the first boss, and if you know Journey to the West, you're like, oh, okay, I know this character. But the person that he turned their heart and corrupted is a secret boss to the first chapter that you may never even encounter, right? And then if you encounter that boss, you're like, oh, this is a cool looking boss. I don't know its significance. But then if you go like learn more about the lore or read the book, then it all makes sense. So I don't know. I say it's interesting because like it's different, but also not different than what FromSoft does. Like FromSoft has their own lore. They just don't tell you anything, and you have to kind of like
I think
make
it's
your
still
own
different.
stuff.
I think that you're still piecing together that lore, and I think especially like another game on your list, Shadow of the Erdtree does a much better job than most other FromSoft games of just being very direct about what's happening.
Yeah.
But
so my experience with this was good because I knew that you needed to have information of this. So I watched like a 30
because I warned you.
Yeah. I watched like a 30-minute video of just like a journey to the West and all the important things. And when you do that, the whole game made sense.
Yep.
But beyond that, like the fights were incredible. The location was incredible. I got sucked into this world. It's the first game that I've ever done. Not just like I've done New Game Plus, but like I've done a New Game Plus, right?
Yep.
Like a third playthrough. I've unlocked everything. You could unlock every stance, everything. There is no... Correct me. There is no easy, medium, hard. The game is just what it is, right? Yeah, I had to make sure on that. I had to think about it for a second. And even still, like, you know, I've gone through multiple New Game Pluses. It's the game I've put the most time of any game, or any time into of any game I played. So I think I'm at like 160 hours in this game or something insane. It had to be high. So anyway, all that to say, incredible game. Looks gorgeous. I have a little nod to it, thanks to Christian, as my fantasy team title, and it was funny enough to where I'm going to leave it. So
I chose this fantasy league title as Black Myth Men's Rights, and that's because some of the leaders at that studio should stop talking and shut their mouths more often.
Yep. Doesn't change the quality of the game. You know, I've had Ubisoft games in my top before.
Boy,
and it is what it is.
Have you? Yeah.
Hey man, if we were doing this 25 years ago, we would all have World of Warcraft games, and we know how Blizzard treated their employees back then, so it's fine.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It is what it is.
And now here we are in 2024 with not nary a Blizzard game in sight.
I know. So, yeah, that's my two.
Yeah. So my number 2 is Dawn Trail. I want the record to reflect that the only reason Alex did not have it higher is because it had all Final Fantasy IX references and no 10, and he's still bitter about it.
Well, that's why
I am bitter about that. Dude, they did 10 dirty. I'm just saying. They added 10 to that game 2 years ago in the littlest way possible to be able to say we added 10 to the game.
Yeah, and you know what? Some people would say that was just enough. So, but I think, yes. I honestly, there's not much to add past what Alex said. I think that, or what we talked about when we talked about it on Alex's point, but Dawn Trail is an incredible expansion. I think the characters that they introduce in the new story is super fun. It has me eager to know more and see what they're going to do. And from a gameplay perspective, this game has literally never been better. The fights, the way they've tuned them, how active they are, some of the new mechanics and stuff. There's like that even the new 24-man raid that you usually can just sort of turn your brain off during. You have to be alert. When Alex and I went to go do it the first time, along with Travis, it was rough. It was pure chaos. It was tough, and it just brought back all these good feelings of trying to figure out mechanics and figure out what's going on.
We still have to yell out, like, we're still yelling out numbers when things are happening. Like, there's a charge up to 3, which doesn't seem like a lot when a lot's going on. You have to, it's hard to hear.
There's a lot of things happening.
You have to be like, it was 2, be on the second circle, right?
It was great. It was just, I really, really dug this expansion, and the Final Fantasy IX references certainly didn't hurt it.
Which is, can I say, it's really some horseshit too, to be honest with you, because this is not the first time. This is the second time they've done stuff with Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy IX already has its whole own like dungeony sequence and stuff. So,
where?
With one of the raids, don't they have the no? Which one is Rabanastre? Oh, that's 12. Sorry, just kidding. That's 12. You're right. Yeah. It is. Just more games that you like.
Yes,
yeah,
you would know
right.
that one. Yes.
You do.
Yeah, it is more games I like. That's fair. That is fair. And clearly God and history are proving me right on those. So
they gave me a minion, 2 minions for Final Fantasy X, and an outfit that I glammed, which I have like the best.
And they gave you a dungeon boss.
And they gave me a dungeon boss.
That is very cool, to be fair.
And that's it. Like the other great Aeons and stuff from Final Fantasy X were already in the game.
You got two dungeon bosses.
The Manga Sisters and Anima, but Anima's the only really, really good one. Because they picked the Manga Sisters from like not even the 10 version. They picked them from like a different.
Yeah, but everybody knows them from 10. But yes,
still, they did like the worst thing and like for his game.
And you would argue,
they literally based
Yojimbo
they
in
based
there
the
before.
they based like your entire like, hey, we're gonna give you minions that like have their special emote when you come across somebody else in the world using the opposite minion.
So Preston,
it's just so stupid.
I didn't tell you this. But since you played 9, I can tell you. So if you are 2 players and one of you has the Garnet minion and one of you has the Zidane minion, they'll walk up next to each other, and just like the end, Zidane will get down on his knee and put like the little flowers out, and then Garnet will be like all excited to take it. It's amazing.
That's very
It's
cool.
so good. Yep.
Yeah, that's great. It's good for you.
Yeah, it is.
It's a good expansion. What's your number 2, Preston?
Number 2, Nine Souls. The surprise of the year for me, because I am not a kind of guy who loves to beat his head against bosses or boss battles, but this one got me. Metroidvania, with a little bit a hint of Souls as far as you're going to dodge, you're going to parry, and if you die, you're going to go back to the last little camp area you're at, and you're going to lose whatever currency for experience, whatever that you got. I was surprised thoroughly throughout this entire game. I mean, you get the first surprise up front where you're like, oh, it's kind of a cutesy little game. And as far as the story's going, and then they start sacrificing villagers, and you go into this weird kind of like sci-fi looking area, and you start figuring out more about this world, about, you know, how advanced it is, and how it fell, and the civilization is like just crumbling underneath its own like weight, and infection, and all this kind of crazy shit that was going on with that. I was pleasantly surprised by it. I don't know if it's just the aesthetic or what just pushed me beyond going past it more than an Elder Scrolls or something like that. Not Elder Scrolls, more than an Elden Ring or something like that. This game did it for me. I thoroughly enjoyed this game so much. And I'll shout out the rooftops about people who, if they want to play something like this kind of game, like get Nine Souls. You're a Souls fan, you kind of like beating your head against a boss, check out Nine Souls if you like Metroidvanias, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now I know what Preston's number 1 is, which I anticipated.
Yeah, well, I've been yelling about it all year.
I still don't know.
Shut the hell up. Let's keep going.
Okay. So,
I'll know when you say it, but right now.
So I guess Christian and I can. Oh wait! Before we do number 1, let's take a quick break, real quick. Just so I have Jake's top 3 picks of his.
Oh yeah, okay.
Jake is a man of culture.
He is
a man of culture, I see. So we have a couple of Nintendo games on this list. So his number 3 was the latest Princess Peach game. And I'm sorry,
Showtime.
Jake, he texted me, and they're on my phone, but I'm currently using my phone as a camera right now, so I can't look at the list he texted me.
Yeah.
So, yes, Princess Peach Showtime was his number 3. Number 2 was Shadow of the Erdtree. Elden Ring, which, if I'm not mistaken, we talked about it. Elden Ring was his first dabble into FromSoft games, and he really, really liked it. And then number 1 was the latest Zelda that just came out.
Tears of the Kingdom.
Oh no.
Not Tears of the Kingdom. The other the
Zelda game.
Yeah.
Zelda game. Echoes of Wisdom or Echoes of Past, something like that. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, because again, I cannot look at my list in front of me.
That was a game that I did not get to this year, but I did want to check it out. So I'm glad that it.
Glad someone can bring the Zelda in here, or the Nintendo games in here.
Yeah. That's why I said man of culture,
me,
because he was pulling up the Nintendo ones.
Bag, baby.
And I appreciate that they were like, he also wanted, he dabbled in the Princess Peach Showtime game. That's one I actually wanted to get to with Allie and haven't had a chance to get to yet. So I appreciate that. Travis had a few. He played the card game simulator, right? On there, enjoy that. That was the one that I am also addicted to.
Trading
card shop.
An early access game. Okay.
Yeah. Sure. Black Myth Wukong.
Okay.
On there as well, and Balatro.
All right.
Hey,
got some Balatro. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Some Balatro. So there we had it. So with that, thank you, gentlemen. We wanted to include some of their favorites just because they helped us so much during the year with the different stuff we've been doing. So with that, let's get into my number one. Christian, we could probably do this one together. My number one is going to be Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth.
There you go.
Yeah, we can just talk about it.
It was a perfect ending to a character's story. It hit you in the feels. It was also goofy. They did an amazing job at the last game was supposed to like bridge this gap of like the new direction of the Yakuza games, which are the Like a Dragon games here in America, which they've always been in Japan, right? And like they did an amazing job at bridging that gap between Kiryu and Ichiban, and like letting them be unique, and also managing this cast of like 12 different companions that RPGs do.
I mean, dude, and what a send off for that old crew. I mean, and we'll just say because we'll spoil it, but like because it was in the trailer, but
that's true. The old crew that you get that aren't even part of the 12 companions you like have in the game, like
like Seijima, Majima, Daigo, like they're all there. You have some other like there's. I mean, the moments with them and Kiryu, like when Kiryu goes out to the shack to try to like convince them to help, and like everybody's just like beaten down, like but they were ran out of Japan because of the new Yakuza laws and all this different shit, and then they're trying to come to terms with the fact that they're figuring out that Kiryu is terminal, which just so we're clear, this is something that I was told we were going to bring up, but like. You're dealing with the fact that Kiryu has cancer, and he's basically being told like it's not curable, you're fucked, and like that's it.
Yeah.
And I was playing through this game like it was shortly after I had, went through with my aunt's passing away from cancer, and so then to come right into this game to have Kiryu dealing with it and all this other stuff, and then. That's already difficult. And then you've got these goddamn moments with Kiryu going back to Japan because he collapses in one of the pivotal moments of the game and is coughing up blood everywhere, and he can't even stand anymore because the cancer has just like riddled his body. And so they take him back to Japan so he can receive treatments to be able to try to stand up and do certain things. And they basically tell him like, hey, you got a couple weeks and that's it there, big guy. And so they're basically like going through and chalking off his bucket list, and you're going.
They even call it his bucket list in the little things you can do, and then on top of all of that, they're like, "Hey, it'd be real fun. What if he told you how all of his orphanage kids are doing?"
Oh, and you just want to blow your fucking brains out because like you can't. Due to the nature of what's happening in the story, like you can't go and see them, like you can't
interact with them.
You can't interact with them. They still believe that you died at the end of Yakuza 6. And so like there's like one of the kids, he achieved his dream, he's became a firefighter now. He's got this family, he's doing these things, and he's like talking to the person that is basically acting as like the intermediary so that Kiryu can listen in on the conversation. And he's basically just like, all of this is so good, and I'm glad that I'm doing well, and I'm happy that I just wish that Uncle Kiryu was still around to be able to see the man that I've become, and blah, blah, blah. And it immediately cuts to Kiryu just bawling his eyes out because he's like so sad. Like he just wants to go over there and give this kid a hug, and he can't. And that happens 9 more fucking times, and the game just like doesn't stop. It lets you relive all of these different moments from all of the Yakuza games where like they even redo the part
and other stuff. And
they redo the part from Yakuza 0 where Kiryu basically is like, if you're ready to die, then step the fuck up, and like goes and like it's like they have that part, and they have the RC car racing and all, like I mean just everything that you could possibly want from a send off. They leave no stone unturned.
And the crazy thing about it too is they give you 2 full games in one game.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
That you play a whole game with the 2 characters in Hawaii, and then as Christian just mentioned, antics happen and Kiryu has to go back to Japan, and then you can go between the 2 places, right? I spent 50 plus hours in Japan just doing Kiryu stuff to the point where when it kicked me back, it said, "Hey, you've hit a point. You have to go back to Ichiban's story." I almost forgot I still had Ichimon's story going on. Like, there's, and not in a bad way. Like, I don't mean that it bad, but like they pack so much game into this.
Because then the problem that you get is like, so you have Kiryu's story, and it's like this emotional journey that you have to go through just to be reminded that Kazuya is finding, or Ichiban is finding his, not Kazuya, I had Tekken 8. I was looking at the thing. Kasuga. He's dealing with the fact that he's finally found his adopted, or his bio mom, and is trying to go through what that journey looks like because he's 52, finding out, or he's like in his 40s, I think.
Yeah.
Finding out his, who his actual birth mom is, and then he goes to the ring, like when he goes back to Japan after he's dealing with the main, like the one of the main antagonists for that long, and he's like carrying him to the police station, and people are just like pelting him with shit, and I just wanted to reach the screen and be like, I'm going to kill every single one of you. Like, you don't know how good of a person this is that you're throwing shit at, you motherfuckers. Like, it's just, there is no series truly like the Yakuza and Like a Dragon series, and
they pack fun into it too. Like you talk about it, like it's heavy, but it's also like there's a ton of goofs.
But there's so much
like
fun. Like, I think one of the clips that I sent to Preston back when I first talked about this game was this crazy Taxi remake that they do in the middle of the game. That is you on a DoorDash bike, like riding up the side of a building and doing dumb shit. Like, there's a whole other Animal Crossing game in this game that's really fun and hilarious.
There's a Pokemon game in this game.
There's a Pokemon game in this game. Like, it's just there's so much, and there is very few games have affected me emotionally like Infinite Wealth did, and I don't know that there will be another one anytime soon. It is something. It is really, really something. It's a good game.
All right, Presto. What you got?
Number 1. Metaphor ReFantazio.
Oh, okay.
Like, Christian's like, I don't know which game is like.
Actually, I was wrong. I thought you might bring up a Balatro or something in here.
I thought about being funny and saying Balatro or mouthwashing or something like that, but no. Metaphor ReFantazio. I've been talking about this all year long. Like, this is probably going to be my game of the year. This
I didn't even realize you didn't have it on the list yet.
That was my problem, is that I thought he already had it on the list. And so when he was like, everybody knows what my number 1 is, I was like, I genuinely do not. Because Persona and Metaphor and Nine Souls are already on here. To be fair, and Neva, so I was like, I really don't know.
Infinite Wealth came out so long ago, I completely forgot. I'm saying, like, what are you guys' fucking top 1? What's Christian so pissed off about? I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
I thought... So,
I mean, I just finished Infinite Wealth like a week and a half ago.
Well, yeah, so but like, you've been playing that game all year. I figured it was just a thing.
I thought what he was about to say, so can I say, I thought the reason I was going to be so mad at him was because I thought he was going to say FF14, and then he was going to put Like a Dragon, and he was going to make Shadow of the Erdtree his number 1, and I was like, I'm going to drive to Atlanta and strike you. But, okay, yeah.
But no, yeah, I mean, we've talked about this throughout the year. We've talked about this already on your guys' list twice. This is where I think Persona games should go from now on, as far as like that team. Obviously, Atlas is not going to stop making Persona games. That IP prints money, so they'll make a Persona 6. It'll still happen.
I don't think so. Well, maybe, but it won't be Persona team.
The director of this game said that he wants to make Metaphor the 3rd franchise, so that would mean Persona's still around, Shin Megami Tensei still around. So, yeah.
But either way, I think I love the combat so much more in this game, the way they kind of dealt with it. I've never played a game like this to where they give you turns. Based off of what, if you hit them with weaknesses, you can make an extra turn out of there. You can pass up to kind of make sure someone else goes first, so they get a weakness in. It's very cool how I'm almost 100 hours in. I'm still thinking about ways of how am I going to get an extra turn out of here. Like, oh, now my main character, I now have that fucking soul scream or whatever the fuck it's called, and I can now put up once per battle because fuck me, I can't have it just like every other enemy does, so I can just do it whenever the fuck I want every fucking turn at the beginning of my turn. I can only do it once during the battle. So it's
a nice twist on turn-based.
Yes,
which is
it's different enough, yeah. For someone who hasn't played the new Trails games, yes.
You've played turn-based games before.
Yeah, I mean, I've played the Persona games beforehand. I played.
That's what I mean. That's what you said. You said I haven't played a game like this with turns. So just to clarify for those listening,
the way they
this new twist, because it is different. Yeah, it is different.
Yes. I've played turn-based games. I've beaten 9.
I just wanted.
I've beaten.
I know. I wanted to clarify. I want to clarify for those listening because this is a unique way they handle the turn-based system. Yes.
But yeah, the characters. I don't think there's a character I dislike in this fucking game. I mean, Juna is kind of alright, but she's also the pop star that I kind of like.
Juna was like one of my favorites. How dare you besmirch her?
I mean, you're comparing it to all the rest of them. I mean, like...
I said what I said.
No, you can say what you want to say. I think it's a disappointment a little bit that Katarina wasn't a part of your party. But hey, guess what? I found out right towards the end when I finished up her rank 8... is that, she'll just pop into some battles every once in a while. I'm like, fuck, well, she's not going to pop in at the final fucking dungeon, is she? So I guess I just don't get to use that cool ability at all. But yeah.
She does pop in the trial dungeons and the trials.
Yeah, so yeah, I just won't go back to that. One of these days, maybe I'll go back to it all, but it's not anytime soon. You play 100 hours of a game, I kind of want to have some space from it before I play it again.
Metaphor would never be my number one for the sole reason that I wasn't allowed to romance Katarina. That's it. It's what it is.
Romances would have been a fun little extra additional thing to it, but like I don't feel that it fits within this game the way like you wouldn't choose one of your team members over anybody else. Like
she wasn't a team member.
She's a part of your, what do you want to call it? Not entourage, but like
harem.
You're the group of people who are behind you and will support you. It's kind of like your team of a team of a team.
Your supporters.
Your supporters, yes.
Yes.
But yeah, Haizume's background story is fucking gut-wrenching. Yeah, just so many great fucking stories in this game. And I do like, the traveling with your teammates, with the ship, whatever you want to call it, the Landwalkers or whatever it's called. Just going through it, like the designs of everything, like the painterly aspects of it, like the whole skyboxes are just fucking paint backgrounds. They swirl around at you. It all looks phenomenal. 10 out of 10. Unless fucking finale does something to me that pissed me off, it's a 10 out of 10.
Can I say the only character story I did not like was the guy that was the same species of people as Juna, right? He was the dude. That one took a weird turn because he's dead half of those bonds. God, what is his name? The pretty boy, the blonde head, the thief guy, not the thief guy. The trickster. All I was gonna say is I don't. Not everything has to be fun and games and happy, and this game actually teaches you that early on. There's a pretty big death, right? So I think it was a little cheap when they let him die and then brought him back to be like, he just, he's not actually.
I finished the rank 8 of that. He doesn't come back.
He comes back.
No, he gives you all his money at the very end, and that goes towards like the town or whatever.
You have spoiled that for Preston, but yes, he does come back.
Okay, that's fine.
Oh, that's right. You're not. It's after you get out of that. Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay.
Light spoiler.
We're here for spoilers, anyways. That's quite alright if it slips.
Damn it! I forgot. Yes. So there will be a time.
But his story's interesting too. You started off like the rank 2 of your bond with him is him talking about how his mother's fucking died. You get to see that horrible fucking scene of his mother dying in his arms. And it's like, God damn, fucking take a chill pill for a second. Let me be rank 5 of your bond. Jesus.
So let me go ahead and share with you the ending that you think that you're in right now is the best ending. And I think it was cheap that they brought him back. They've taught us there was consequences. We get to his rank 8. Giving you the money and going and doing good stuff with it was a perfect ending for him. In my opinion, it's done when he comes back. Anyway, there's that.
Okay, so
yeah. The only reason that I say that
I apologize for that spoiler. I forgot that happened.
Yeah, it's just that he's always portrayed himself as a liar and a cheat, and so then
I was expecting it to be on rank 8 that he would be like, actually, I'm here.
Well, so I thought he would be alive, but you wouldn't see him again. Right?
Sure.
Like, maybe because of that reason. Either way.
Him or something, yeah.
Yeah, regardless of what happened, I didn't like him coming. And that was just a personal thing. He
was not one of my favorites for sure. I think the one with the... I can't pull names on my ass right now because I'm horrible at names. But the lady with the igniters, the igniter shop lady.
Brigitte.
Brigitte.
I am disappointed that we didn't
great.
get to see the Puppo at all. Because the Puppo didn't exist anymore at a certain point in the rankings to where like you just don't get the dog back. I'm like I want to John Wick this shit. Like I want to go get my dog back kind of deal. Like I don't want that dog to be gone. Like that we had a little bit of a bond. So I kind of just a little bit disappointed about it, but you know, these little small things. And like I said, I prefer more of the Persona style of music, but that's not fair because this is a fantasy world with the fantasy music that's an amazing fantasy soundtrack.
They did a great job too with things that I've never seen in games before, like the land walker and the ones that fly. Like I've never seen any vehicle like
the
that
humans
ever.
in this game.
The humans and even the different
things,
races, like Juna's race, right? Being they glamour themselves from a young age, and when they get to a certain age, nobody other than their parents have ever seen what they actually look like.
They're chibi characters.
Beyond. Yeah, and like this game did things in a fantasy way that I've never seen done in other places that I thought was interesting. Very interesting.
And then the turns, like I didn't expect the Prince turn. I didn't expect Juna's sister to be a turn as far as she's the one who put the fucking virus on the Prince. So I thought it was pretty cool. There's a lot of turns and there's a lot of unexpected things that they'll kind of put at you, which I like a lot. So it's my game of the year. I kind of predicted at the beginning of the year it was going to have to do something to me to dislike it, to not keep it at number one. But yeah, it's number one game of the year by a bullet.
All right. So there you have it, everybody. Here is our list of our personal top 10. Check in with us later as we go, or our next episode as we dive into the definitive Testing Room's top 10. It is always a decent bit of fun. This will be interesting too because I look and like Christian and I have a couple of games. Christian and Preston have a couple of games.
The thing is, we do have a couple of similar games, but a lot of them outside of like a dragon.
Yeah.
Like we kind of have them on different sides of the ranking a lot of times.
Yeah, I think the problem is going to be, I think that we have a strong, like, I think it'll be really easy because how we always do it every year is that we come up with the 10 that are on the list and then we argue about order.
Them. Yeah.
I think that coming up with what's on the list is going to be super easy because we share a lot of the same games.
Ranking them.
The ordering is going to be a lot harder than we want it to be.
Yeah.
So check in with us, everybody. Thank you for hanging out with this episode. And with that, Preston, you know what to do.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to another episode of The Testing Room. To catch up on past episodes or check out the newest ones when they drop, follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your favorite podcasts. If watching is more your thing, check out youtube.com/thetestingroom or Twitch TV/testingroompod. To leave comments and ask questions, follow us on Instagram @testingroompod and email us at testingroompod@gmail.com. See you next time.